Hello, this is Julie from Woolzone, and today I'm going to show you how to knit and join mitred squares. It's what things I'm asked about most from my customers. So starting off by casting on an odd number of stitches. Here I'm casting on 31 because that's the number of stitches we use on the squares in our Exton cushion kit. But any odd number will do depending on how big or how small you want your squares. I'm casting on with the thumb method, but that's just my preference. You can use any cast on method that suits you, as long as you end up with an odd number of stitches. I'm using 3mm needles, and I'm using the gorgeous Lang Miller Colori Baby because I love the colour changes in it. Every ball is different, so it's always exciting to knit with. So just getting to the end of our casting on here, just checking we've got 31 stitches. Yes, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 31. Okay, and we're going to start with a knit row, but we're going to knit into the back of the first stitch. This will help to give you a very neat edge and will make picking up stitches when you want to join your mitred squares much easier to do. So just knit across the row as normal, or as normal as you can when you've got a video camera on you. It's amazing how much it changes the way you knit. So just going along. I'm doing this video as part of Yarn Dale at Home. Very disappointed not to be Skipton this year, but COVID-19 has put an end to all the wool shows, hasn't it? So Yarn Dale at Home is the next best thing, and I'm delighted to be part of it. So just getting towards the end of the row now. Stop just before you get to the last stitch, because again we're going to do something to make the edge nice. Okay, so when you get to the last stitch, bring the yarn to the front as if you were going to purl, and then slip the stitch purlwise. Now this is our first decrease row, so knit into the back of the first stitch, and then we are going to knit until we get to the middle 3 stitches where we're going to decrease. So in this case it's 13 stitches to knit after the knit into the back one. The double decrease is what gives mitred squares their distinctive sort of reverse L shape. So slip 1 purlwise for your decrease, then knit 2 together, and then pass the slip stitch over that stitch. Okay, and then knit 13 again, and then when you get to the last stitch again, bring the yarn to the front as if you're going to purl, slip that stitch purlwise. Okay, turn the work. You're now going to do a normal knit row, but remembering to knit into the back of the stitch on that first stitch and to knit with the right end. So knit with the working yarn, not the tail. We've all done that, I think, at some stage. Right, so you're just knitting your way across this time. Mitred squares are really versatile things, and I'm using the same yarn for all the squares in this pattern, but you can use up leftover yarn and have all your squares of different colours, or even change colour in the middle of a square. It gives you endless variation. And once you know the technique, you can apply it to any thickness of yarn as long as you've got the appropriate size needles. Okay, then back to the last stitch again, so yarn to the front, slip that purlwise. Then we're on to the next decrease row. You decrease every other row with mitred squares, so knit into the back of the first stitch, and then in this case we're going to knit 12 now, so 1 stitch each side less than you did on the decrease row before. So we're doing 12 on this side. Slip 1 purlwise again, knit 2 together, and then slip that stitch over the decrease stitch, so another double decrease, and then knit 12, which will bring you to the last stitch. Okay, yarn to the front as if you're going to purl, purl, slip the last stitch purlwise. Okay, now normal knit row again, but knit into the back of the first stitch. It's not crucial if you don't, but it does make picking up stitches a lot easier when you come to do it, because you can easily see where you need to pick up. And this way avoids having to sew your squares together, because you're going to join as you go. Okay, so knit all the way along until you get to the last stitch. And then slip the last stitch purlwise with the yarn in front. I don't know if you can hear the cat now, it's obviously her meal time. Right, so knit into the back that stitch. We're going to decrease again, so 1 stitch less, so 11 this time after that. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 11, and then slip the next stitch purlwise, knit 2 together, pass that slip stitch over, knit 11, which will take you to the last stitch, and then yarn to the front, slip it purlwise. That's it. And now you're just going to continue like that until you have just 3 stitches left. 3 stitches now, slip 1, knit 2 together, pass that slip stitch over, and that is your first mitered square complete. So you can see you've got the cast on row down the right hand side along the bottom, you've got the decreases diagonally up the middle, and you're now going to pick up down this left hand side and then cast on for your next square. So you've got 1 stitch, use that as the first, and then you're going to pick up another 14 down this side using the elongated stitches that you created by knitting into the back and slipping purlwise. So go through both strands of that kind of V-shaped stitch, and this gives you a nice firm edge and no holes. So just keep picking up and knitting 1 stitch all the way down until you get right to the corner, and pick up right in that corner, so you've got there we go, so you've got a nice neat edge. Right, and now you're going to cast on for the rest of the square. So you're going to cast on 16 stitches, so you've got to turn the work first to do that, and then faff about a bit, but cast on 16 stitches. So that's 2. Oh, needle doesn't want to go in today. 3. Try not to make this cast on too tight, because you want your squares to be a fairly uniform shape. Oh, yarn is fighting back today. All fingers and thumbs. I think that's what happens when you know you're being watched, even if it is just by a video camera. This is the first time I've tried one of these, so I hope you find it helpful. Oh, some stitches are quite difficult. Or I'm making them so anyway, they're not really difficult, I'm just making a meal of it, I think. And there we go. So we've got a total of 31 stitches again. Knit into the back. In this case I knit into the back all the way along the cast on stitches. Again, I just find it gives a firmer edge. And I knit into the back of the first stitch on the pickup, or the last stitch of the pickup. The first stitch you come to going this way. But you're just completing this square exactly the same way as you completed the first square. So your first row is a knit row. Okay, and then into the back of that one, and then just knit normally for the rest. Up the side of the square. Slip the last stitch purlwise with the yarn in front. Okay, so now we're going to do our first decrease row, and these decreases will go in exactly the same direction as on square one. So again, knit into the back of the first stitch and then knit 13. Slip the next stitch purlwise, knit 2 together, that's your decrease, pass the slip stitch over, okay, knit 13, which will take you to the last stitch, yarn to the front, slip that stitch purlwise, and then knit back. Knit into the back of the first stitch again, remember for your edging, but just knit back. And you can make your row of mitered squares as long as you like, because you're just going to do exactly the same every time until it's the width that you want, whether it's a cushion or a blanket or a scarf, whatever it is you're doing. Okay, so now you've got 2 squares completed. Having done that, we're back to just the 3 stitches again on the second square. You can see how the decreases go in the same direction, and we're now going to pick up again for square 3. And you just carry on in this way until you've done as many squares as you want. For the cushion we do 6 across. But there you go. So just picking up again, remember through both strands of the V. You can already see the colours changing on this. As I say, I love this Miller Colori baby yarn. It's pure merino, and the colours are just glorious. Okay, so there we go, and the last stitch into the corner. There we go, and then you're going to turn the work and cast on 16, and then that will be the start of square 3. In the next video we'll show you how to do the next row, how to pick up your stitches on the next row. So see you soon. Thanks for watching.
They have. I thought they had arrested him. Oh, right. Oh, they have arrested him. Oh, okay.